Battle still on for second place though. Daniel Buxton holding back David Gibson. And Peter Sowerby there riding shotgun in that fourth place. Championship points at stake. The driver's driving carefully but running up over the curbs this time, carrying a bit more speed. This could be the chance. Buxton goes one side, then the other. He's sold the dummy. He's got the inside line and two wheels on the grass. Superb committed racing down into the chicane. He has the line now and trying to keep the door closed there. Peter Sowerby trying to jam on the rear bumper of Gibson, but he can't hold it. Sowerby stays in that fourth place. Daniel Buxton holds on in third, but not for long because up Clay Hill it's wheel to wheel. And there's a left-hander before the right at Druids, and this time Daniel Buxton is going to have to give best. And the edge has gone off the number 9 car's handling as a result of that qualifying accident, I suspect, because that is not normally the sort of place where Daniel Buxton would give ground on his home circuit, and he's still determined to fight back, and that is superbly judged. And bang onto the rear bumper goes Peter Sowerby in frustration, but that was a beautifully judged move, and I'm just wondering, with the slightly deranged suspension on the number 9 car, whether it turns right better than it turns left. Well, it's certainly okay through the right-hander here, runs up over the curbs at Old Hall, down now through Denton, little right-hander, now the left-hander at Cascades. Let's see whether Sowerby has the advantage. Not this time round. This is a very committed lap by Buxton, trying to put airspace between himself and the number 11 car of Peter Sowerby. Up to the island hairpin, but this is where Sowerby will close in on the brakes, takes advantage. This is where the yellow car loses out on traction out of the corner, and again you can see Sowerby starts to close in, runs a wheel up over the curbs at the exit. And poor old Daniel Buxton just about going cross-eyed now, looking one side on the windscreen, the other side on the rear view mirror. And a jink out of the slipstream there for Peter Sowerby, but he's not close enough to challenge this time around. Jim Edwards Jr. still holding on to 5th place, with Jim Edwards Sr. and Ray McDowell closing in on him at the top of our picture. But at the head of the field, Henry Taylor still extends his advantage as this battle for 3rd place again. It's wheel to wheel up to Druids, and again going late on the brakes. That is very brave stuff when you reckon that man just had a 100-mile-an-hour accident at that corner yesterday. And David Gibson really is driving superbly. We're looking on from Jim Edwards Jr. still there in that 5th position, and that is going to be good enough to make Jim Edwards Jr. the champion. He needs a top 10 result only. But meanwhile, this man is extending a 3-second or more margin. At the head of the field, Henry Taylor from Battle in Sussex. And the Black Bomber is going very nicely indeed here, down through Dentons, into Cascades. Tremendous battling up and down the field has allowed this man to open up the gap now. He is almost in cruise mode. Perfectly controlled, no lock wheels, judging the braking point absolutely perfectly down into the hairpin. Now, and that is 6th and 7th places off. Jim Edwards Sr. T-boned by Ray McDowell. Well, they're both parked right off in the boonies. Jim Edwards Sr. trying to get back on the track with a very battered Renault Clio. Let's see what happened there. And it's down at Cascades, just a nudge on the tail. And Jim Edwards Sr. there, harpooned by the flying Ray McDowell. A racing accident, I am sure, but neither driver will be happy with the outcome. And battles all continuing up and down the field. Rick PEARSON and Martin Johnson fighting for 9th and 10th place. And what is that hanging? That is a piece of rear view mirror being towed along behind Martin Johnson's car, still on its wires. But this is the last lap of the race for the race leader, Henry Taylor. And he is set to match Jim Edwards Jr.'s record of 4 wins so far this season. It's going to make it interesting going into the final round, because as Henry Taylor is heading for his win number 4, behind him this man, Jim Edwards Jr. is the champion-elect. Heading down into the hairpin, he's giving away 5th place. He doesn't need to worry about that. Simon Clark in the Goodlift racing car goes through into that 5th position. 6th place will be good enough for Jim Edwards Jr. And 10 years from when he became the Renault 5 GT Turbo Champion, 1990, he is set, if he can complete the last half of this lap, to become the year 2000 Clio Renaultsport UK Cup Champion as well. Great result too for the Mark Fish Motorsport team, who prepared that car through the season. Meanwhile, the number 88 car heading up final corner of the lap for Henry Taylor. Superb race for him, leading from effectively the first corner. Henry Taylor, an absolute flyer, a perfect victory for Henry Taylor, win number 4, and behind him a good second place for the local driver David Gibson from Tarpley, but everyone is waiting for this man. 6th place across the line is going to be good enough for Jim Edwards Jr. to be year 2000 champion. We are the champion indeed. A great race for Jim Edwards Jr. An even better one for Henry Taylor. He takes the victory from David Gibson. Daniel Buxton holds on there in that 3rd place. Peter Sowerby 4th, Simon Clark 5th, but Jim Edwards Jr., the champ, is 6th.
Yeah, that's it. We're here for the championship, and that's what I came here to achieve. And whilst it was a boring drive, I think I earned the right to drive like that at the beginning of the season with you know, obviously the wins and the top 3 finishes. And now it's all over. I can get back to going for the race wins. It makes a big difference when you're driving to win and when you're driving for points. You know, you're just driving in a completely different way, and I just can't wait now to go to Silverstone and have some good fun.
Well, fun indeed it will be at Silverstone. A 44-point margin into the final round means he's already crowned, but look at that battle for 2nd and 3rd. Taylor and Buxton are going to take it right down to the end. But meanwhile, it's a champagne shower for our new champion, Jim Edwards Jr.
Congratulations then to Jim Edwards Jr. Fantastic result for him, and I'm sure he's going to be celebrating well into the night. We're going to take a short break now, and in a couple of minutes we'll be back with news of the Renault 2000 Euro Cup. Welcome back. Now, for some of the teams in the Formula Renault 2000 Championship, it's been a very busy year. For as well as competing in the British Championship, they've also been competing in the Formula Renault Euro Cup. Steve Slater reports from across the channel.
The picture-perfect city of Florence was the setting for the start of the Renault 2000 Euro Cup. Mugello in Tuscany played host to the young Formula One hopefuls, and although the race didn't count towards the championship, it gave everyone an opportunity to take stock of the competition from across Europe. Holland's Charles Volsman immediately got to grips with the circuit, as did the Italian Matteo Grasotto. But it was Britain's Massa Motorsport team that stole the show, fully justifying their decision to opt in on the Euro.
Qualified 1st, 2nd, 5th and 7th. Very good start to the European season. We were running 1st and 2nd in the race. Unfortunately, Kimi, who was leading the race, had a rear suspension failure, which put him out after about 6 laps, I think. And then Danny missed a gear, I think a lap before the end. And unfortunately, Grasotto got past him, and that was it. We finished 2nd.
So for what it was a case of what might have been, losing out to the Italian by less than a second. But for the 20-year-old Buckingham boy, the Mugello experience was priceless.
It was good, yeah. They do things slightly differently over there. They have 2 qualifying sessions, which is good, because if you screw up in the first one, you've always got this, a second opportunity. So it's good. They just run a slightly different format, and we had a lot of time testing over there, which is good. And you've got the best from Europe over as well, and the best cars from all over the world, best drivers. So it was a good experience, and learning the tracks in Europe was awesome.
The first round proper took place amidst the sand dunes at Zandvoort in the Netherlands. With the Manor boys racing in the British Championship, Grasotto was free to take pole position ahead of the young American Richard Antonucci. Number 15, Marcus Winkelhock, also qualified well, the nephew of Smoking Joe taking 4th. It may have been a fun atmosphere in the crowd, but on the track, this start said it all. The cars had barely got out of first gear when teammates Marcel Lasse and Walter Lechner were launched into the barrier in a monster shunt. As the rest of the field filed through, the medics rushed to the scene. Thankfully, both drivers were unhurt. Inevitably, the safety car was deployed as the debris was cleared away. A closer look at the incident just shows how lucky Lechner in particular was to come away unscathed. When the safety car pulled in, Grasotto was quickly into his stride and he pulled away from the field. But his fellow front row man Antonucci had real problems holding off Toby Scheckter for 6th place. Grasotto was in a class of his own, opening up a 3-second gap on Zvoltsman by the 6th lap. The Dutchman in the number 16 car would only just hold on to 2nd place after being reeled in by Mike Schmidt from Germany. Further behind, Jersey's John de Portales held off Winkelhock and Antonucci to claim 4th. But at the flag, Grasotto was over 11 seconds ahead of the rest, taking the first Euro Cup round and the applause. So it was the Italian who drew first blood in the Euro Cup, closely followed by the Dutchman and the German, neither of whom would make the front row for round 2 at the legendary Spa-Francorchamps circuit in Belgium. That honour went to a Brazilian, Felipe Massa, and a German, Markus Winkelhock. But that would be Winkelhock's only contribution to the weekend. He was left on the start line when the lights turned green and was collected by Marco Knauf, starting from 25th on the grid. Again, the strength of the touchless Renault chassis saved the drivers from injury. The restart was a more civilised affair. This time all the cars got away cleanly, but Massa's lead was short-lived. By the time they got to the bus stop chicane at the end of the lap, Richard Antonucci had taken over at the front. Massa was still in 2nd, but there was no mistaking this hungry pack visible in the young Brazilian's mirrors. Antonucci seemed to be cruising to the checkered flag, but in motor racing, concentration is the key to winning. Fortunately, the Italian-American's laps at the bus stop chicane wouldn't cost him the race. Much is made of the famous Eau Rouge corner at Spa, flat out in top gear. But it was the bus stop chicane that was causing the most problems for the Renault drivers, as Grasotto's unorthodox overtaking manoeuvre on Massa showed. Antonucci safely negotiated the rest of the race without incident, to take the victory by just under a second from Grasotto. Back in the pits, it was only too obvious how much the win meant to his JD Motorsports team. The win catapulted Antonucci up to 2nd place in the championship and to within 18 points of Matteo Grasotto, who was carving a name for himself as Mr. Consistent. It was on to the classic circuit of Monza in Italy for round 3, and for Brazilian Felipe Massa a narrow escape in qualifying. He'd keep it off the barriers though and recover to claim his first pole position. And the Scheckter name was returned to the home of the Italian Grand Prix when Toby, son of Ferrari's last world champion Jody Scheckter, took to the track.
In a way, I'm doing new things now with my son, so the sentimental part is really for yesterday in a way. But it was very nice to see lots of old friends in a way. Formula 3 is a, how can you say, a brainless formula in a way. It's expensive for really not very good reason. And I think this type of format that Renault has now is really the way of the future.
At the start, though, it wasn't the South African, it was the two boys from Brazil, Felipe Massa and Augusto Farfus, who quickly dispatched the Italian opposition from Fabrizio Del Monte. Although that move would put number 6 Farfus under scrutiny from the officials. Monza's the fastest circuit in the championship, but it's the slower chicanes that continue to claim their victims without national bias. Jersey's Jean de Portales, Hungary's Peter Onidi were two of the first victims. And they were rapidly followed by Germany's Martin Knauf and Croatian's Marin Kolak. But at the checkered flag it was delight for Massa and a win for Brazil. But there was disappointment for championship leader Grasotto. He was out with suspension failure, and that meant that his lead in the championship dropped to just 6 points.